What's up, RHD? I'm Marco Giordano, and I'm here today with Pam Kazanets and Susan Hunt from RHD's Department of Clinical Innovation and Quality, which provides clinical direction across the organization. Today, we're going to be talking about trauma-informed care, an initiative we're implementing across RHD. Pam, Susan, and so many others are working hard to ingrain trauma-informed care across our organization and reflect it in our values. I have some questions that I think will help all of us understand what trauma-informed care is about and why it's so important that RHD become a trauma-informed organization. Welcome, Susan, Pam.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
What is trauma-informed care?
So we know a lot more now about trauma and its effects than we ever have before. There was a very large study called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study that showed a direct relationship between the number of traumatic experiences that a person may have had in their life and later health and wellness outcomes. So people who have been through a number of traumas are more at risk for developing cancer, diabetes, and substance abuse. So we know that, but we also know that addressing trauma and creating safe places to work and live really can change that path from those negative outcomes towards a path of resilience and wellness for all of us. Right. So trauma-informed care is not one kind of treatment or technique, but an approach to everything that we do. And we really refer to it using the 4 R's. So trauma-informed care helps us to realize the prevalence and impact of trauma, to recognize its signs, and also to respond in compassionate and effective ways, and to create environments that really resist re-traumatizing individuals who work here and receive our services.
So tell me about that. How does trauma-informed care specifically relate to RHD?
One of the things that the Adverse Childhood Experience Study really showed us is how prevalent trauma is. So we know that 70% of all people have experienced at least one traumatic event in their life. That's 223 million people. So that means if you're sitting in a meeting with 10 people, 7 people in that room have had at least one traumatic experience happen to them. And we know that number is even higher for people in our programs that are receiving social services. That number is closer to 90%. And I think a lot of people that work closely in programs would say that's probably too low. It's probably higher than that. So trauma-informed care is really a parallel process. And it's one that says the health, the safety of staff is as important to creating healthy and healing environments for the people that we work with. It's really a cultural shift. And I think one way to think about trauma-informed care is this huge umbrella as an initiative, and there's lots of spokes in that umbrella. And some of those spokes are initiatives that are already happening at RHD, like wellness, self-care, being an employer of choice, and our cultural awareness, diversity, inclusion training.
Great. So what does it mean to be a trauma-informed organization?
One of RHD's most critical goals in being a center of excellence includes becoming a trauma-informed care corporation. You know, trauma-informed care is a movement. Just like the recovery model advanced the ways that we provide services, trauma-informed care is now the lens through which we really see everything. Right. So for us at RHD, this is going to be a multi-year, multi-phase process where we'll be infusing trauma-informed principles throughout everything that we do, including how we hire and orient staff, to what we talk about in supervision and how we conduct team meetings, all the way to really focusing on staff self-care and wellness, like Pam mentioned. And of course, it's infused in all of our approaches with the individuals that we serve. You know, as Pam mentioned, trauma-informed care will really influence the whole culture here at RHD.
Right. How does it relate to our values?
Trauma-informed care principles are completely in line with our values. Those principles include safety, trust, empowerment, things that should sound familiar for all of us.
Right.
And just like for our values, we don't look at our values and say this only applies in programs. And when people are working with individuals, our values really influence every aspect of the work that we do, in every decision we make, in every interaction that we have. And trauma-informed care is exactly the same way.
Right. Trauma-informed care and our values seem to be a perfect combination to what we're trying to create our culture here at RHD. What are we doing to become a trauma-informed organization?
So one of the first steps is really to bring together a group that will help us organize and guide RHD through the journey of becoming trauma-informed organization. So we've developed a core committee, and the members of that committee represent all aspects of our services, from members who are on our executive team to the DSIC clinical group, folks from shared services, leadership at every division, program staff, and most especially representation from our peer specialists.
Right.
So we want to acknowledge that there's a lot of work and a lot of great work that's been happening around trauma-informed care in programs and divisions for a long time now. We have trained over 800 staff on the impact of trauma. We have programs that have their own trauma-informed care change teams, really looking at infusing trauma and care principles throughout all aspects of service delivery. We have trauma-specific evidence-based practices like TREM, DBT Seeking Safety happening across the corporation. We have folks getting really creative in offering yoga, art therapy, and therapeutic drumming because people heal differently. And we have a lot of programs really looking at self-care and infusing self-care into the program culture, and that has actually resulted in decreased staff turnover as a result of that work.
That's great. That's great. What can people do to become more trauma-informed?
So there are things people can do right away today. A couple things that are simple and easy. Just get up, walk around, eat lunch away from your desk. If that's not something that's an option for you, then get a trauma-informed care buddy, someone that you can check in with throughout the day that can check in with you. And if you take a day off, do not check your email. That's a big one, because I promise you, people will call you if they need to get in touch with you.
Sure.
And I think too, if you're having an interaction with a client or one of your coworkers and somebody's having a really strong reaction, just taking a moment to pause, take a breath before you respond, because you never really know what a person has been going through. And I think also you can check out the Trauma-Informed page at MyRHD's homepage. That includes lots of resources and videos that give us tips on how to manage trauma and how to improve our self-care. So that is something to check out.
That's great. Thank you, Susan Pam, for joining me today. I'm talking about a very important topic, trauma-informed care, and what we're doing within RHD to really embrace it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope everybody has learned a little bit more about trauma-informed care. Connect with us again next month for our next What's Up RHD, and make today a great day.